Hey, what's up, guys? It's Apollo Uchiha here, back with another part of What If Naruto Was Struck by Lightning. And before continuing this, if you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you like the content of this channel. And without further ado, let's continue on with our story.
Naruto, you are the container of the QB, Risen said bluntly. Naruto sat there, staring at the man. Risen was waiting for Naruto to reply. Risen tried to discern even a single emotion from Naruto's face, but picked up nothing. Risen heard nothing but Naruto sigh before looking at him. I already knew that, Naruto said bluntly as well. Risen looked in shock at the news. He had never expected the boy to already know he contained the QB. How do you know? Who told you, my boy? Risen said hastily. I figured it out myself. Plus, it really wasn't a well kept secret, Naruto said. Risen sighed and then seemed to sink even further into his chair. So you have made contact with it yet? Risen asked. Actually, I have. It is a very annoying entity. It constantly encourages me to kill villagers, while also threatening to kill me. Sometimes, although his threats are hollow, as I would never let him escape, Naruto said. You're making me look like a pussy here. QB growled inside of Naruto's mind. Naruto grinned cheekily at QB, angry expression. When Hiruzen heard that Naruto had been talking to QB, he shot up in his chair. Naruto, when did you start communicating with the QB? The process wasn't supposed to happen until you reached the age at least 15 years, Hiruzen said. While I was in the coma, the lightning strikes seemed to accelerate everything about my body, so I am not surprised that it affected the seal. Naruto said while crossing his arms. Hiruzen looked at Naruto, but had to avert his eyes from the harsh glare Naruto was giving him. So I am guessing you are mad about me not telling you about the QB earlier, Hiruzen said. Honestly, I don't care. The information would not have and did not have any effect on me. Whatever so may be the reason. While I don't appreciate you keeping personal secrets about me from myself, these secrets holds no value. Now, if this is all, I will be taking my leave, Naruto said while promptly walking out of the office. Risen slumped into his chair when he heard the last part of Naruto's speech. If only you knew, Naruto-kun. If only you knew, Risen said while staring out of the windows of this office at the Hokage's monument. Link break with Naruto. You know, he's keeping secrets from you. I say we charge back into the old monkey's office and interrogate him, QB said. Naruto stopped to consider the offer before continuing his mad charge through the village. Shut up, QB, Naruto yelled out loud. Naruto stopped and looked around. Did he just say that out loud? By the looks the villagers were giving him, he could probably say yes. Naruto huffed and continued walking through the village. After several minutes of mad stomping, he reached his destination. Naruto jumped over the massive gate that surrounded the whole forest of death. Naruto landed crouched on the ground with a pissed off look on his face. Naruto released a massive roar before bounding into the forest. I love it when you act like this, kid. Pure on instinct, QB said. In the forest of death, a collective shiver ran through the creatures of the forest. Whoever had made that roar was pissed off and looking for blood. Link break. 1 week later, Naruto slowly walked through the gates of the forest with a huge grin on his face. Now the grin was disturbing itself. The fact that Naruto was covered with an obscene amount of blood seemed to magnify the creepiness. Naruto had spent the last week slaughtering the forest of the creatures and taking out his anger. He had only survived purely on the plants on the forest and the meat of the creatures he killed. Naruto was now calmer, albeit still a little pissed, but much calmer than before. It was the day he was going to be assigned to his Jonin instructor. Naruto contemplated going into his class covered in blood, but decided not to. He didn't need to give Hiruzen and more reason to think that the QB possessed him. Who would think that little old me would try to hurt you? QB said with an innocent tone in his voice. Naruto let out a short giggle at QB's tone. Naruto arrived at his apartment and entered it. He discarded his bloody clothes and jumped into his shower. After a 10-minute shower he desperately needed, Naruto exited the shower with nothing but a towel. He went to grab his new clothes but got a surprise instead. Anko was currently sitting on his couch, watching a TV and eating several packs of his ramen. When she heard him, she turned to him and waved at him. "Hey Naruto," Anko said, then turned back to watching TV. Naruto stood there, awkwardly as Anko watched TV. After a while, he shrugged and picked up his clothes. He activated the seals inside of the jacket and the blood seemed to burn off the clothes. After making sure he had everything, Naruto dropped the towel. Anko had so happened to be looking over at Naruto when he dropped the towel, so she had gotten a full view of Naruto's package. And what a package it was! "The hell, Naruto? Put some clothes on," Anko said with a massive blush on her face. Naruto grinned and then turned to her. "If possible," Anko blush increased. "Well, it is my apartment, so I can prance around naked if I want to. If you don't like it, you can leave," Naruto said with a smirk. Anko said nothing and then awkwardly turned watching TV. Naruto grinned and then continued to get dressed. "So today, the day you get the Jonin sensei, eh? Are you excited?" Anko asked. Naruto pulled up his pants and turned back to Anko. "Not really. I just hope my sensei isn't a dick like the rest of the village." Naruto muttered the last part under his breath. Anko giggled at Naruto's blunt answer. Naruto finished getting dressed and sat down on the couch next to Anko. Anko looked confused as Naruto started to watch TV with her. Don't you need to be getting to the academy?" Anko said. "Nah, I can be a little late," Naruto said. Anko shrugged at Naruto's behavior. For the next 2 hours, Anko and Naruto sat on the couch, watching TV and eating ramen. Finally, after 2 hours were over, Naruto decided it was time to leave. "Well, I think being 2 hours late is enough," Naruto said while standing up. Anko pouted at the fact that Naruto was now heading out. "Ah, Gaki, why are you leaving your Anko-chan so soon?" Anko said with bottom lip quivering. Naruto grinned and softly patted Anko's head. "Sorry, Anko-chan, but I gotta go meet my sensei," Naruto said. Naruto walked to the door and was about to open it but stopped. He looked back to Anko with a small blush covering his face. Anko looked confused at this. It usually took a lot to make Naruto blush. Naruto walked over to Anko with a hand behind his head. Anko, I was wondering if you would like to go on a date after my meeting today, you know?" Naruto said nervously. Anko looked in shock at Naruto's question. When it finally registered in her mind, a big blush spread through her face. A wide smile soon followed the blush. "I would love to go on a date with you, Gaki," Anko said, with a smiling blushly and slightly brightly as well. Naruto's nervous smile bursted into a massive grin. He smiled brightly and went for the door again. "I'm guessing you are staying here, so I will see you after my meeting, right?" Naruto said while shutting the door, not waiting for Anko's answer. When Naruto left, Anko slumped into his chair with a heavy sigh. Honestly, she had been waiting for Naruto to say that to her for a while, and now that it finally happened, she was ecstatic. Anko continued to watch TV all while she had a soft smile on her face. Link break with Naruto. Naruto was currently walking through the streets of Konoha with a massive grin on his face. Now, seeing a happy Naruto was a very weird sight, so in all it was a very scary sight for the villagers. Naruto arrived at the academy with a grin still intact. He arrived at the homeroom and then quickly controlled his features. He threw his hood over his head and went inside the room. Now Naruto really didn't expect anybody to be in the room. He honestly only expected Iruka to be there, but the occupants of the room surprised Naruto. Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno sat in the class alone. Sasuke was sitting in one of the corners of the room and Sakura seemed to be pestering him. Sasuke and Sakura turned to the door in hope that their sensei had finally arrived. Instead, the hooded Naruto greeted them. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura locked hoods. As soon as Naruto saw Sasuke and Sakura, he turned around and slammed the door shut behind him. "Are you fucking serious? I have to be paired up with these two? Is this some sort of punishment? I bet Hiruzen's mad because I was talking to the QB." Naruto said to himself. "I bet Kami hates you now," QB said. A man was currently walking through the hall towards Naruto. He currently had his face buried in a book due to his perverted giggles and blush that flushed in his face. One could clearly see that the book was perverted. He continued walking the hallway. Due to the amount of anger Naruto was feeling, he was unaware of the quickly approaching figure. The two collided into each other and both of them went to the ground. "Watch where you're going," Naruto said angrily. The figure stood up and looked down at Naruto. Naruto looked up and finally got a good look at the man. The man wore Anbu-style pants and shirt. He had a green vest on. The man had spiky silver hair that stood up on its ends. His headband covered on one of his hands and eyes. The man seemed to eye smile before reaching out with one of his hands. I'm sorry, I guess this is a bad way to meet your new sensei. My name is Kakashi. I'm guessing you are Naruto, right? Kakashi said. Naruto grabbed Kakashi's hand but immediately had to let go. Kakashi was once again sent to the ground as Naruto electrically touched shocked him. Naruto's sweat dropped as his sensei twitched on the ground for several seconds before jumping back up, perfect smile. Well, that stung a lot. Now let's pick up your teammates, shall we? Kakashi said while starting to walk back to the classroom. Naruto groaned as he remembered who his teammates were. He reluctantly followed Kakashi back to his classroom. He saw him entering the room for several seconds before exiting. Kakashi looked back at Naruto and I smiled. Meet me on the roof, Kakashi said before disappearing in astonishment. Naruto nodded and slowly crouched on the ground. When he heard Sasuke and Sakura come to the door, he exploded towards the door. A yellow blur seemed to fly through the stairwell. The blur slammed open the access door to the roof and stopped right in front of Kakashi. Kakashi looked in shock as the blur was revealed to be Naruto. Damn, that was fast, Kakashi thought. Naruto leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. Kakashi took this time to examine Naruto. From what he was seeing so far, the academy records were completely wrong. They said Naruto was a brash child that had minimum potential in being a ninja, but yet the kid was able to move near low-level speeds while he was an academy student. He also seemed very calm and collective. Kakashi also saw an abnormality in Naruto. He could see sparks actually flying off of Naruto's skin. It seemed like Naruto was creating his own electrical energy and giving it off through his skin. Finally, after several minutes of awkward silence, Sakura and Sasuke arrived. They took seats next to Naruto, Sasuke to his right and Sakura to his left. Once Kakashi saw his team was situated, he began to talk. Well, hello everyone. One of you already know me, but the rest of you don't. I am Kakashi Hatake, and I might be your Jonin sensei, Kakashi said. Sakura gained a confused look when she heard that. What do you mean by might? We passed the exams, right? Sakura yelled out. Kakashi threw another eye smile at the Genin. Well, you see, that wasn't really the exam. It was more like a ruse to weed out the weak Genin. The test I will be giving you will be a survival test, Kakashi said. The news shocked the three Genins. They all thought that this was the end. Only a third of the academy students will actually pass the real Genin test. But I don't think you need to worry about that. Not a single Genin team has ever passed my test, Kakashi said. This sent the Genin further in shock. All the work they put in the academy could be washed down to the drain if they failed this test. Well, enough talking about the exams. Let us introduce ourselves, shall we? You can go first, Pinky, Kakashi said while pointing at Sakura. Sakura huffed at Kakashi's nickname. Why don't you go first, Sensei? Just so we can know how we could do it, Sakura asked. Kakashi sighed and then nodded. Well, my name is Kakashi Hatake. My likes are a little too graphic for you. My dislikes are, I have a lot. My hobbies are reading. My dream is, once again, a little too graphic for you, Kakashi said, while ending it with a nice smile. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura all sweat dropped. At the very watched introduction, Kakashi pointed at Sakura to signal her to go. Well, my name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are... She stopped and looked at Sasuke. She let out a small giggle and had a small blush covering her face. My dislikes are perverts, rapists, and Naruto baka. Well, fuck you too, Sakura. Naruto shot back at her. Sakura glared at Naruto before continuing her introduction. My hobbies are reading, and she stopped and once again stared at Sasuke. My dream is to... She stopped again to stare at Sasuke. She continued to state and stare at Sasuke. Naruto and Kakashi sweat dropped at the girl's behavior. Sasuke looked ahead, unaware of the girl that was next to him. Okay. Well, that was weird. On with you, emo boy, Kakashi said with a nice smile. Sasuke grunted at Kakashi's nickname for him. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. My likes are few and none of your business. My dislikes are numerous and including this whole team. My hobbies are training, and my dream is to kill a man and restore my clan, Sasuke said with a monotone. Kakashi and Naruto once again had sweat drop at the weird intro. Sakura looked in awe at Sasuke's cool intro. Well, that was interesting. Last and not least is Speedy here, Kakashi said while looking at Naruto. Naruto looked at Kakashi with a mad look in his eyes. Please don't call me that, Hatake, Naruto said. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are ramen, jaguars, and Anko-chan. My dislikes are windy days and spiders. My hobbies are training, eating ramen, and hanging out with Anko-chan. My dream is none of your business. Anyways, that's it for me, Naruto said. Kakashi nodded at the intro. That was the most normal one so far. Okay, those introductions so weren't real. Well, you are to meet me at Training Ground 7 at 5 a.m. Exactly. If you are late, that will count as an automatic fail. Bye now, Kashi said before disappearing in a sunshine. The three students blinked owlishly at the teacher's sudden disappearance. Naruto guessed that they were disappeared in a burst of speed. Only Sasuke and Sakura remained on the roof. Sakura saw that only her and her crush were left on the roof. She decided this was the best time to ask Sasuke out on a date. Sasuke-kun, I was wondering if you would like to go on a date with me. Sakura asked while looking down with a blush on her face. Sakura waiting several seconds for Sasuke to reply, but heard nothing. She looked up and saw that Sasuke had left without her knowing. She fumed in anger when she realized that her crush had once again escaped from her grasp. I will find you, Sasuke-kun. Sakura yelled, ranged through the village. Somewhere in the village, a chill ran down Sasuke's spine. He had a bad feeling something bad was going to happen to him, but he didn't know what. Link break with Naruto. Naruto had arrived at his apartment steps. He walked up to it and opened the door. He saw the Anko was still on the couch, but now she was asleep. Naruto smiled and then slowly walked up to her. He slowly shook his shoulder to wake her up. Don't wake her up. Take her as yours while she sleeps, Kyubi said. Anko, it's time to... Whoa! Anko tackled Naruto to the ground. He suddenly found a kunai to his neck. Anko looked at him with a drowsy eyes. When he finally got a good look at him, a sheepish look appeared on her face. She slowly got off of him and helped him up. Sorry, Naruto-kun. I sort of just let my instincts to take over for a while, Anko said while helping Naruto up. Don't worry about it, Anko-chan. Are you ready for our date, though? Naruto said with a smile. Anko nodded and Naruto stuck his arm out. Anko looped her arm around through Naruto's and the two headed out of the door. They walked out on the streets and were immediately bombarded by a wave of dirty looks. But Naruto and Anko paid no attention to the villagers. After several minutes of walking, they arrived at a restaurant. The restaurant had a giant sign that said, Hidden Leaf. Anko looked at Naruto with surprise clearly shown on her face. The Hidden Leaf. Never expected something so fancy. How did you even get a reservation here? Anko asked. Naruto smirked and let out a short laugh. Don't you worry about that, Anko-chan. Just know that I'm always my base, Naruto said while leading Anko into the restaurant. As soon as the two entered the restaurant and immediately knew they stood out. Everyone in the restaurant were either wearing kimonos or a dress. Naruto and Anko stood out with Naruto's completely white clothes and Anko's trench coat and fishnet shirt. Naruto walked up to the podium that was in front of the restaurant. He was greeted by a sneer from the man that ran the podium. What are you doing here, boy? We don't serve you or her kind here, the man said. Naruto grinned and started to walk up toward the man. He got within inches from his before stopping. Suddenly, Naruto's hand shot out and grabbed the man's head. Naruto slammed the man head in the podium. If you would kindly look on that little list there, you would see that there is a reservation list for Uzumaki. Now, I would appreciate if you would kindly lead us to our table. Ne? Naruto said. The man looked at the list and best as he could and saw that Uzumaki was listed there. He saw it in defeat and Naruto let go of his head. The man fixed his uniform before grabbing two menus. If you would kindly follow me, the man said before leading the two through the restaurant. As they were walking through the restaurant, they both received dirty looks. Naruto would return the looks with one of his that was harsher. After several seconds of walking, the two arrived at a table that was at the back of the restaurant. The two sat down and the waiter walked away. As soon as they sat down, Anko began to stare intently at Naruto. After a while, Naruto looked up from the menus and saw that Anko was staring at him. What? Naruto asked. How in the world did you get the reservation here? The waiting list for this place is days long, Anko said. Well, I just used my power of persuasion to persuade the owner to let me and my date get a giggle. I had to give him an offer he couldn't refuse, Naruto said. Flashback. Naruto was currently standing on the roof of the Hidden Leaf. You see, he was planning to ask Anko on a date and surprise her with bringing her here. Naruto had plenty of money to take her here, but he doubted that they would let him in, so he decided to have a little talk and heart-to-heart with the owner. It was late night. The Hidden Leaf had just closed several seconds ago. The owner was just only one left in the building. He walked out of the building and locked it behind him. He managed to take 2 steps before Naruto dropped onto him. Naruto grabbed his shoulder and electrocuted him. The man fell unconscious. Naruto picked up the man and disappeared in the sunshine. Several hours later, the Hidden Leaf owner groggily startled up and woke up. He immediately tried to move his arms but found them bound. He looked behind him and saw that he was tied to a tree. He started to panic when he realized he was tied to the tree in the middle of the night. Help me! Help me! The man started to yell out loudly. Suddenly the air around him started to shimmer. In front of him, Naruto appeared. When the owner saw him, who was in front of him, a sneer appeared on the face. I knew it. You are a demon. You captured me to kill me. The villagers will come for you. You will be the first. The man was silenced by the back of Naruto's hands against his cheek. Will you just shut the hell up? I am not here to kill you, Naruto said, agitated. He really wanted to be asleep right now. Then why did you drag me here? The man asked, confused. Naruto crouched down and came face to face with the man. All I want is a reservation to your restaurant for Friday. That's it. Naruto said. The man suddenly busted out into a bout of laughter. The laugh was mocking and was nearly getting on Naruto's nerves. The man couldn't stop laughing and looked at Naruto with a "Are you serious?" look on his face. If you think I will risk my restaurant's reputation just to give you a reservation, then you are wrong. You will never dine in my restaurant, you demon, the owner said, with finality in his voice. Naruto gave a short chuckle and then stood up to his side. I figured you would say that, Naruto said. Naruto held up his hands and balled it up into a fist. Suddenly, a massive amount of sparks started to fly off his hand. Naruto then looked at the man with a bored look on his face. Now we can do this easy way or the hard way. The easy way requires you to give me the reservations and you walk away unharmed. The hard way requires me to send hundreds of thousands of volts into your body and then give you the reservation. The choice is yours. Either way, I'm going to have fun, Naruto said. The man's eyes darted into Naruto and Naruto's fist. After several seconds of hard thinking, the man that was the side of the field. You can have the reservations, the man said. Naruto grinned and started to untie him. When untied, the man stood up and groaned and started to stretch. He looked towards the village and then turned back to Naruto. Hey, could you give me a... The man was interrupted by Naruto's fist slamming into his cheek. The man fell to the ground unconscious. Naruto looked down on the unconscious man. Don't you think that was a little harsh? The QB said in a sarcastic way. Bastard deserved it anyways, Naruto said before picking up the man and shunning away. Naruto appeared in front of the Leaf Hotel and dropped the man roughly to the ground. He then sunshade away, leaving an unconscious man lying in the middle of the streets. Naruto then walked down to the streets, disappearing into the night. End of the flashback. Naruto busted out in a fit of laughter as Naruto retold her the story. The two continued to go through their date for 2 hours before walking out of the restaurant. Naruto walked Anko home. They were now standing on Anko's doorstep. I really appreciate the date, Naruto-kun, Anko said. Naruto gave a light smile and rubbed the back of his head with his eyes closed. Naruto's eyes suddenly flew open as Anko's lips connected with his. Naruto felt Anko's deepen the kiss and deepen itself. The two remained kissing for several minutes before they came up for air. Anko smiled at Naruto before walking into her apartment. Naruto walked through the village, the happiest he has ever been. Link break the next day. A loud, annoying alarm clock could be heard ringing through the apartment. The apartment continued to ring for several minutes before kunai zipped towards it and smashed it. The kunai then zipped back under the covers and into the hands of its owner. A groan could be heard from under the covers. The covers were suddenly thrown off to the real Naruto within on the bed. Naruto groggy got up and out of the bed and went into the shower. After 10 minutes of shower, Naruto stepped out and got dressed. After eating a breakfast of toast and rice, Naruto began his trek through the village. Now it was only 5 a.m., so the streets were relatively deserted. After a 10 minutes walk, Naruto arrived at the training ground. The training ground consisted of a large clearing that was surrounded by a very dense forest. The clearing had a medium-sized lake that was kept in the back of it. Naruto walked to one of the thicker trees and tree climbed up to it. He leaned against one of the thicker branches on the tree, threw his hood over his eyes, and swifted back to sleep. A couple of hours later had gone past, and several things had happened. Sasuke and Sakura arrived at the same time and began their daily ritual of Sakura pestering him and Sasuke ignoring her. Eventually, Kakashi arrived in a flutter of wind and leaves. He got his yelling from Sakura before dropping his book. He gained a confused look as he didn't spot Naruto, and this was where he dropped it. Has anyone seen Naruto? Kakashi said. Sasuke and Sakura and Kakashi all got a shock as Naruto suddenly appeared standing next to Sasuke and Sakura. Kakashi's sweat dropped at Naruto's sudden entrance. I'm right here, sensei, Naruto said in calm and one-tone voice. Kakashi nodded and then started his introduction. Well, as you know, today is our survival training test. The main objective is to get these 2 bells, Kakashi said. Kakashi reached his weapon pouch and pulled out 2 metal bells. Kakashi then saw Naruto grin out of the cover of his eyes. Kakashi's eyes widened as he felt Naruto's chakra spike very suddenly. Suddenly the bells came flying out of Kakashi's loose grip and into Naruto's hand. Done, Naruto said. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Naruto in shock since he had just technically completed their test. Kakashi's sweat dropped at the fact that Naruto had just taken the belt so easily from him. So am I gaining yet? Naruto said with a raised eyebrow. No, I didn't say go yet. Yes, that's the reason. Kakashi said while nervously rubbing the back of his head. Naruto sighed and then threw the belts back at Kakashi. Kakashi pulled the belts back to his pouch. Well, seeing as we are running late, let me just fast forward this. As you can see, there are only two bells, meaning that the only two of you will pass. The other will go back to the academy, so that the test, your test begins in now. 3, 2, 1, go. Kakashi said as he rushed the last part. Sasuke and Sakura immediately dashed in front of the forest. Kakashi looked at Naruto expectantly as he stood up before him. You're not very smart, aren't you? Kakashi said while flipping through the book. Kakashi heard Naruto let out a small laugh. Kakashi looked up from his book and saw Naruto through his hood over his head. Kakashi's eyes widened as Naruto disappeared right before him. Kakashi immediately put his book down and dropped into a defensive stance. He began to look around in an attempt to find Naruto, or invisible Naruto. Suddenly, Kakashi felt a strong punch came across his foot. Kakashi was lifted off his feet and into the air. Kakashi managed to right himself before landing on the crouch. You know I could just end this right now, a voice rang out before Kakashi. Kakashi suddenly twisted around with a kunai in his hand. He hit nothing but air. I expected more from an elite Jonin. The voice ranged out again. Kakashi turned around once again, but this time had his fingers towards his mouth. A torrent of flames shot out of his lips and flew through the air. Unfortunately for Kakashi, still didn't get Naruto. So close, yet so far. Naruto's voice ranged out once again. Kakashi growled and then reached into the pouch. His arm came flying out and several kunais and shurikens were sent flying through the air towards the voice. The weapon sailed through the air and flew uselessly into the tree. This is getting boring, you know, Naruto said. Now Sasuke and Sakura were currently seeing the strange sight. Their sensei was seemingly attacking an invisible open. They watched as they threw kunai and shuriken and jutsu towards the enemy. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't working. Kakashi had just got finished throwing another wave of weapons towards his invisible students, and honestly, he was starting to piss him off. No matter how fast Kakashi reacted, Naruto managed to avoid his attacks. Kakashi sighed in defeat when he realized what he must do. He went through several hand signs and casted a small genjutsu over his face. He then pulled up his headband to reveal that he had a fully mature Sharingan in his eye. Kakashi looked around in an attempt to find Naruto. He suddenly stopped when he detected Naruto's chakra signature. Gotcha, Kakashi said before taking off towards Naruto. Naruto grinned when he realized that Kakashi finally figured out a way to detect him. He quickly slipped into a defensive stance and waited for Kakashi. Kakashi reached Naruto and threw a heavy punch at Naruto. Naruto ducked under and then grabbed the punch. Kakashi's eyes widened as he felt a gigantic amount of voltage entirely erupting his system. Kakashi attempted to get out of the grip, but Naruto was too strong. Naruto was watching as Kakashi struggled to escape his electrifying grip. Naruto's eyes widened, however, when the Kakashi was holding went up into a puff of smoke. 1000 zero of pain. Naruto heard Kakashi yell behind him. Kakashi was so busy seeing Naruto flying into the air that he missed his other also witnessing students. He was, however, disappointed when that Naruto exploded in a display of sparks. Kakashi turned around as he saw what seemed to be a lightning bolt approach behind him fast. Kakashi ducked quickly as the lightning bolt went sailing through the air. Kakashi watched as the lightning bolt hit a tree and collapsed it easily. Don't want to be hit by that now, Kakashi thought to himself. Kakashi turned around and started to run towards Naruto. Naruto grinned and reached into his jacket. Kakashi's muscle tightened as he prepared to dodge any projectiles thrown at him. Kakashi's suspicion was right. Naruto's hand blurred out before his jacket and launched dozens of weapons towards Kakashi. Kakashi grinned and then proceeded to duck and dodge through the waves of weapons. Kakashi reached Naruto and easily pinned him to the ground with a kunai against his chest. Do you forfeit? Kakashi asked. Kakashi watched and Naruto smiled, seemed to increase Kakashi's eyes widened as he felt Naruto's chakra spike once again. Kakashi turned around and saw that it was all of the weapons Naruto had thrown were coming back towards him. Kakashi managed to sunshine himself into the near tree. Kakashi watched as the weapons slammed against the still Naruto. He sighed in relief when he realized that Naruto was only a clone. Kakashi looked around the training ground to find Naruto. He found him standing in the middle of the training ground. Kakashi watched as Naruto threw a kunai into the base of the tree he was occupying. Kakashi heard Naruto saying something and felt his chakra spike once again. Kakashi looked in confusion as nothing happened. Kakashi heard a loud boom and looked up. Kakashi's eyes widened as he saw a bolt of lightning coming down from the sky and towards him. Kakashi hopped from the tree and onto the ground as the lightning hit the tree. The tree fell into the ground in a burning, scorched mess. Kakashi looked back towards Naruto with a shocked look on his face and eyes. A Kenin should have been able to do those jutsus. Kakashi looked at Naruto curiously and cautiously. He was waiting for Naruto to move. Kakashi's muscle tightened as Naruto reached into his jacket. Kakashi's eyes widened as Naruto pulled out the two bells. He looked back in confusion at the two bells he had on his hips. He watched as they both went up in the puff of smokes. Like I said, I could have ended this minutes ago, Naruto said. But how? Kakashi said, honestly confused. Naruto grinned and he saw Sasuke and Sakura come out of the forest. I never gave you the bell back. I used my sleight of hands to switch the real bells with the lightning clones. Handed as bells. You just so happened to fall for it, Naruto said. Kakashi face palmed himself, falling for such a simple trick. He then looked up at Naruto with a nice smile. So, who will you give the other bell to, Naruto? Only one of your teammates can go with you, Kakashi said. Naruto turned towards Sasuke and Sakura. Sakura had a very conflicted look on her face. It seemed like she didn't want Sasuke to fail, yet she still wanted to pass. Sasuke had a look that said it all. You better give me that damn bell or I will kill you. Naruto sighed and threw a bell each towards Sasuke and Sakura. I choose both, Naruto said. Kakashi gave an eye smile towards Naruto. He then looked at all of his students. Congratulations, you're officially again in team, said Kakashi. And this is where I'm going to be leaving this story off, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. Peace.